And then I'll also record as well. Okay. Welcome everyone to another, let me just hang on. Need to mute myself on YouTube as we go live to avoid the feedback, and welcome everyone to another conversation with Sar RA. Now, if you haven't listened to the first podcast that we did, I will put the link down below so you can get some background foundation. But in today's conversation, we are going to talk about the consciousness of water. And there's a lot of other people speaking about the importance of water. But Sam, last time we spoke, we touched on the intelligence of water. And when you say that water is conscious, what does that actually mean? And let's dive into that conversation. And for those that don't know, Dr. Emoto, who was the Japanese scientist many years ago, did all the studies using the microscope and looking at the water as consciousness. I recommend following up and going into that. I'll put the links down below just to give some people some context. But so let's dive into your experience about the consciousness of water, what you've brought through your channelings with Mary Magdalene, and there's other channels that you bring through, Mother Mary. But the intelligence of water, where did that start, and what does that actually mean to people who have never heard of that concept before?
Well, it's so exciting to be talking about living water and what it means to have a conscious relationship with water. And so you're saying that water is conscious, and I would agree that water is conscious, that it has a living wisdom within itself, and that there is an intelligence within water that is communicating to life here on Earth. So what does that mean? How can we understand that? Well, we can start to think of the intelligence or the consciousness of water as this element. So, water is this element that has been here since the formation of the planet, right? And the planet itself is mostly water. It has a lot of water. Like, we are a water planet, and so this water has been here cycling and recycling the minerals of the planet since its formation. And as it is in this relationship with the soil and the minerals here, there has been life created. And you can think of what is supporting the life to be creative. It is the flow, the movement of water, and this intelligence of water to know how to catalyze bonds between the minerals, and how to deliver what is needed to deliver the nourishment for life. And we can see that playing out in our own bodies as well, if we think of how water is integral to all of these fluid systems in our body, from our blood, which carries a huge amount of intelligence. Now, the water here is working with minerals in the water, right? And other elements. So that's happening in our body. Our blood is a ecosystem of intelligence, but water is very, very present. We have our endocrine system, which is the immune system, and the hormonal system. The fascia system is a watery system as well. All around our cells is this like gel-like water called easy water, and our cells themselves, have water in them. So all of life is being carried around by water. So if you don't think that it's intelligent enough to know how to deliver, you can at least think that it's carrying all of this other stuff needed for life as it's moving. And so water has been part of the cycle of life here on Earth, recycling and cycling and building and re like building outward and then bringing it back in. We have the cycles of the water. The soil is the same. They both have cycles, and so the water has been part of this growth since the start of the earth and since the start of our bodies, too. So there's this living intelligence that's operating, that is growing all the trees, that's helping to deliver everything that the trees need for life, everything, the grass, everything. Rocks have water in them, and when there's the right kind of temperature within the soil and there's water, then crystals are formed. And there's just this great wisdom that's carried in the movement and flow of water, and that's what I would call to be living waters, or intelligent water. Now, not that water is ever intelligent, but it's just another way of putting it. The consciousness of water is always flowing and moving and in the cycle of life. And so that's how I would describe that. Or start to dive in.
Beautiful.
And that's really like a
Yeah.
lot of science, like,
Mm.
I didn't really get that. That's just from my own exploration with water. And as you come into relationship with water, you start to learn from its wisdom because it's so rich, as a conduit for life and wisdom. Hmm. Hmm.
Well, and as you said, our bodies are made up of mostly water. I think it's 70-80%, but we're also in this cycle universally where we're drinking water here on Earth, we're eliminating water, but we're also receiving water from above when it rains. And it's this constant cycle that we're in. So how might the quality, energy, and relationship we have with water influence how we experience it in ourselves? Because a lot of people probably don't think of, well, I'm drinking water right now, but they're not intentionally thinking about the water that they're drinking, or maybe putting an intention. So, from your
Hmm.
perspective, what's the difference between simply drinking water and consciously receiving water, so the cells in your body are receiving the consciousness of the water?
So I feel like a lot of people are concerned about water right now. And I feel like that this is something that's pressing for a lot of people. We have people in the world that don't have access to clean water, and that's like heartbreaking. And also, we're concerned about the quality of our water and what's being put in our water and how our water is being used by different technologies and all sorts of things. And so I do feel like humanity has their heart and their eyes on water. And most people are, concerned about, like purity or cleanliness of the water, as their primary concern. And that's one thing that is important, for many bodies, is to make sure that the water is filtered. But something that is often not even taught about or spoken much about is the energy of water, which is where you're tapping into setting intentions, right? Setting intentions and communicating with the water, and using your energy in co-creation with water. And that's I love to talk about that. So I want to just go back to this reality that we live in a water planet, and essentially we are water beings. And so you can just imagine that we have this like mineral shell on that we think is pretty solid, but we're actually like living in water. Our atmosphere is water. there's so much water here, and things are what does water do? Well, it carries things, and it's carrying light, it's carrying vibration, sound moves through it. It's a conduit, right? Electricity moves through it very easily. Sound moves through it easily, vibration moves through it easily, and it's a really good communicator. And so when you're drinking water, because you are of earth, your body is responding to the water if you like it or not. It becomes part of you. So whatever water you put in starts to structure and communicate and reorganize with the waters in your body. Just if I were to take a Kool-Aid and put it into a glass, the color would start to move through the glass and fill the glass up. So when I put water in my body, that's what it does. It starts communicating with all of the other water in there, spreading out its wisdom and its nutrients and its minerals through out my whole body, right? And so if you are focusing on filtering and making sure that it's like pure or clean, for a lack of a better term to put forward right now, that's not taking into account like how the water is moving. How did it move to you? What is it being held in? Is it being held in plastic? Did it move through pipes? Is it coming through many different filtering systems? How far from its natural pace and its natural movement and its natural flow has it been removed? We have a lot of conversations about like how far did your food have to travel to get to your plate. That seems to be something that's kind of going on now. But it's like, well, how far did your water have to travel from the source to your table, and how is it, or to your body, and how is it carried? All of those things have an impact on the resonance within the water, because water holds vibration, water holds memory, it holds on to energy, thoughts, words, patterns, emotions. And this has been, explored in the research and experiments of Veda Austin as someone to look up. She's very popular, where you speak an Emoto, where Dr. Emoto would be the original place where this stemmed into popularity. Is when you speak to water, it holds a particular formation in regards to that statement. And so you'll see when you speak, if you look up Emoto's work, when you speak negatively to water, it becomes disorganized and chaotic. When you speak lovingly to water, it becomes living again and giving, and like the patterns become coherent, and there's often like glyphs, like words, numbers, symbols, images will appear in the water as well. And so this idea that water can communicate, but hold on to communication, hold this memory, hold this resonance, is something that's being studied. And so as you are communicating, as you are with your water and it's moving through your body, even not even just focusing on what you're drinking now, just speaking, like I'm speaking into the water, I'm speaking into my body, and it's holding on to this resonance. If I'm thinking of, how far is my water very close to nature, or how far is it removed? That can cause some stress because you're like, now what do I do? And that would be kind of like the next step, is like, okay, now I'm conscious that there's some disorganization in my water, that's been filtered a lot, it's gone through a lot of manipulation, it's not as coherent with its natural resonance anymore. What do I do? What do I do now? And there's so many things that you can do with your intention. And so you can allow the water to sit out for a little bit in something that's like respectful and honoring of the water, which like I recommend blue glass, but there's like earthen vessels, or even just something that you've kind of consecrated to the love of water is helpful. You let it sit so that it can just like chill out for a bit. Like just think like you've been traveling all over the place through all these tubes. Like you might just want to just like chill out for a minute before you start again. And that's again like understanding that water is a living a living co-creator here on earth of life. And I feel like I might be getting off topic, so I welcome you to reel me back in.
Okay, so what happens energetically to the water as it travels like through the pipes? Because
Hmm.
there's so many different countries that have different quality of water and how they collect their water. And then some countries don't have running water at all. So they're down at the river, scooping it out. So what can
Mhm.
people do, those that live in a first world country where they turn on the tap at the sink and water comes out? What can people actually do at home right now with
Mhm.
just regular tap water that's coming out of the pipes in their area?
Mhm. So when you think of water coming out of the pipes, it's been treated with chemicals, likely coming through a municipality. So I would make sure that it's filtered and make sure that there's, I wouldn't say like highly filtered, just filtered for the things that can easily be not added in. And so I would help by like ensuring that my water was free of those burdens within it. Um, you can tell when you get served tap water at a restaurant because it has a smell to it,
Mhm.
right? Generally. And we all can recognize what that smell is. And so there's ways of eliminating the things that we recognize, and they're kind of aesthetic in the sense, that you're going to get taste and smell back. To the living water, and that's the first thing you can offer the water. So I want you would start thinking that you're having a relationship with water that's gone through a rough ride into your house,
Mm.
and so the first thing you can do is just start to honor it as a life-giving entity, as a life-giving resource, as a source of life that's just pouring out of your tap, you know and it's like they came one way to think of it is like that this water is arriving after like a long bumpy road, right? And like
Yeah.
probably like wasn't fed love in a good way, you know? And so you can just start to honor it and be kind to it, because as a motto shows, like if you're kind to it, it shows up in this beautiful way, in this life-giving way, in this very cohesive way. Um, Another thing you can do is you can spiral it through a vortex, and there's various devices that do that out of the tap, and that doesn't filter, okay, but it does increase like it does handle taste and smell, sometimes smell. Definitely taste can change as you put it through a device, and it spirals it as if it was moving in nature. So remember that living waters is moving, and it's moving in a natural way. There's no real hard angles, or like mechanical mineral removal, in nature.
Mm.
And so as you spiral the water, it brings it back to its natural resonance, and it can happen really quickly. And there's various things, there's wands, there's some wands that you can stir. You can, Blue Bottle has one there you put and you kind of swirl it. And then the Aqua Energizer is another one. This is my favorite one just because it's copper, and like there's so much electrical connection between me and my water when I'm passing it through. And this one works with clear quartz crystals, which I mentioned before is formed by water. So there's like a connection between the crystals and the water. So
Mm.
that's what you can do. Start by like respecting it as a conscious guest, as a conscious co-creator with you. It might seem silly to be like talk to your water, but it's not even talking to it. It's just about like admiring it or honoring it, that it is life-giving. Without water, you will die, right? Yeah.
You actually brought me back to a memory from one of my teachers, I would say, 25 years ago. He was from India and he came to Australia. And what he would do is at the sink, he would have two glasses. He'd fill one glass up with water, and then he'd lift it up and then pour it into the other glass so it was
Mhm.
flowing. And then when that was full, he would swap it over and then pour. And that is how he would drink his water. So for those
Mhm.
listening out there, before you go and buy expensive filters or all the devices, because I know there's a ton of different devices that you can also buy, the
Mhm.
terahertz wands and things like that.
Mhm.
But just simply putting your energy and intention on, and one of the things, just holding your water in whatever glass it's in, or even if it's a plastic cup, it's your intention is more powerful. So just simplicity to begin with,
Mhm.
and sending love and honoring the water, like Sar said. So um, and so if someone's listening and just has ordinary filtered tap water, what simple practices could they use to create a more conscious relationship with it? I mean, I've just started, but would you like to go much deeper
Hmm.
into the
So I would focus,
consciousness?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like first I would just think of, I go back to thinking of it as being like a hard traveled guest. And so, like I would welcome it. I would welcome it with love, like I would keep it. Yes, you can pour it directly out of the tap into your cup, or you can pour it into a vessel and allow it to sit for a little while to come back to it, to get its wits about itself, right? Because it just tumbled through the world. So offering it like a sacred vessel. You can see I have various blue glass because I love blue glass. I love the way that it holds frequency, and I love the way that it shines, that it brings what light it brings in and how it works with the energy. For me
Can you
particularly,
just talk about the qualities and about the blue glass and the
sure.
cobalt blue and what that means and why blue specifically and
Mm-hmm.
why glass?
Mm-hmm. So Mother Mary has taught me a lot about vessels, and she's taught me a lot. She's taught me a lot, or guided me a lot into my learning around water. And the blue glass has been one of those love stories with Mother Mary. And so she talked about, she's the one who talked to me about like letting the water rest in a safe and like regenerative vessel, right? And at first, so I experimented myself with the energy around like just picking like a crystal, like a crystal glass because it's so shiny and right sparkly. And that's where I started. And I just started keeping my own drinking water in that kind of like sacred vessel. I like found something like secondhand even and just put it in it, as a drinking water thing. But I tried to make it a little more fancy. Um, but Mother Mary was guiding me to something that was like that was earthen, but was man made. So, like I wasn't just gonna go find a rock that was a bowl, like it was gonna act, or like someone who's carved a rock. It was more about like using the earth to make a vessel, or using chemistry and alchemy to create glass, right? Which is also made in nature. Um, so so I started to experiment with like pottery and crystal and clear glass and green glass and red glass. And Mother Mary was just taking me all the places. And blue glass was where I found the most support for what I was working with, which was, infusing prayer into water, creating, awakening more and more of a deeper relationship with the water. And so cobalt comes from the same, like a very similar process as iron. And they're like they're really close in relationship, iron and cobalt. And so iron is what gives the earth its magnetic field. It's what helps to make us magnetic as well. And so there's something just deeply important about the relationship with the cobalt um, that is important to like our root belonging on the earth, because it's these like this really deep, rich connection to iron, which just plays such an important part in life here. So, and then we've taken this mineral and we've created this beautiful glass that to our eyes looks blue. The same as like that the sky looks blue to me because I have human eyes and that's how I'm perceiving it. But to other animals and things like that, it's not going to look blue. Okay. So like the blue is like something that the humans are going to place the beauty in. Okay. But it's actually the cobalt in the glass, and the way that humans have worked with fire and atmosphere and water, kind of all of these earth angels, these inner earth plane angels, to create something in honor of nourishment. Like these vessels were made to hold things, and often water to drink from, and so there's that. And then also the blue, this this the filtering that's happening here is letting in higher frequency light and filtering out lower frequency. So it's helping the water to keep base its like base root energy inside and feeding it high energy, from the sunlight of the atmosphere. So you're like nourishing, if you can think of like it being a sick child, like you're nourishing it from its roots, and letting it rest and be safe without being deteriorated or overburdened by sunlight, or escaping, the energy escaping through the filter. It's being held in. Then only the higher, then you're feeding it like very nourishing food, like the most nourishing food that it could have. And so you're helping to like bring it back to life when you are offering it this kind of vessel. The other colors do various other things, to charge it up in different ways. But for my understanding, and with the help of Mother Mary, the blue glass helps to actually rejuvenate the energy of the water. It helps to hold the water safely. And so whenever you speak into or upon water that's been rested in blue glass or carried in blue glass, it's like more responsive. It's like a well-rested child, It's going to get up with joy and just want to give to life all day long, right? And that's what you're offering when you're offering us the safety of this vessel. And that's a similar thing of like providing it a restructuring to nature is something that is also very, very helpful. And you can achieve that by spinning it, or like you said, there's pouring and there's all sorts of kind of various ways to do it. But instead of like messing around with it too much, I believe that the water has ways of working with your intention. And when you allow it to be honored, it listens. Now, you know, are you going to spend that much time for all of your drinking water? I suggest and advise you do, just for your own drinking water. But often you can just have a special vessel of water that you would keep just for the special things, or for a specific intention when you want to drop in, like you want to drop in deeper with yourself, or you want to nourish this resonance of energy in your life. You can have a smaller vessel. This is a slightly smaller one, and so you can have just that bottle, and you can do your energetic work with just that small amount to start. And that's like maybe the drink of water you take before you go to sleep, or the first drink of water in the morning, right? This kind of idea. So it doesn't have to be like every single every single bit of water you drink is held in blue glass, because that can feel overwhelming, right? So keep it simple, keep it small.
And is there a time frame on allowing the water to sit in the blue glass or the blue bottle or whatever blue container people have? Like it, once they've got it from the tap, is there a specific time that you recommend?
So I recommend following your own heart and experimenting, because you'll start to notice that, the water, it feels different when you have it in the fridge or when you don't have it in the fridge, or maybe when it's like sat in the sunshine a little bit or hasn't, and so it really comes down to like your own personal relationship with the water. Once you'll just be able to tell over time. I think Blue Bottle Love does suggest like a few hours, but I don't quote me on that. My own heart says like trust your own experimentation. There's no wrong way. There's no wrong way. Like what does the water do if you add a few drops of dew water in? Or like, what happens? What happens if you put it in the moonlight? There's all sorts of things that you can start to play with when you have a vessel of water that you start to place intention on and experiment with
Yeah,
light and with different energy. Hmm.
beautiful.
And
Can you talk?
If you looked at
Yeah,
Dr. Emoto's pictures, it really is a very physical way of you getting biofeedback of what's happening in the water um, when you're sensing it. Hmm.
absolutely. Because one of his pictures is like a swamp or a really dirty. So, what's the difference between like that stagnant water that's growing mold and fungus or even debris or something in it from sitting to the movement of water like flowing rivers and springs and even oceans, the tide comes in and out. So, what's the difference with the living water where it's sitting still, maybe in a pond, opposed to a lake or a flowing river or
Hmm.
a spring that's flowing?
Hmm. It's interesting because like water is always life-giving. Like it's always life-giving. Even when it's stagnant, because it's always actually moving, because we're all moving. All of our atoms are moving, everything's in movement. There's actually no stillness. So even when water is stagnant, it's still moving, it's still giving life. Now, it's giving life energy to degeneration, so to decay, right? And so it's supporting that. When water is moving, like it's giving life. So when water is in movement, it's life giving, it's life building, it's regenerating. When water becomes stagnant, then it starts to put its energy elsewhere to bring the minerals back into the cycle so that it can start moving them again, moving them around to create life with again. So that's how I would respond to that.
Mm.
When water is moving, it's life giving. And you can relate that, people could relate that to how our bodies are made in the womb. Like our bodies need to move around, and the waters in our body are constantly moving, and that's how we're formed. We're not formed in stagnant water. We are formed, our livelihoods, our bodies are formed into life in moving water. And so when water is moving, it's life-giving, and when it's stagnant, it's still giving of life, but it's giving its energy to this other process of the life cycle. Okay. And so like another thing is like you probably want to get that fresh water from the waterfall, like falling from the waterfall, and not from the stagnant pool way down the stream that has frogs, hanging out in it. Like it's almost like naturally we are drawn to living water because it gives us life. And so trust, like going back to like, how do you know when the water's ready? Just, it's almost like your heart will just be like, oh yeah, I think it's ready. Yeah. And it will just
Yeah.
start to work. Hmm.
And in Dr. Emoto's work, like he uses words as well as sound and music and different frequencies to change the water construct in a way. So when he does his
Hmm.
experiments, so what have you personally experienced with all your work with water and what you've channeled and brought through? What have you personally used for yourself, like not just intention, and what other simple things can people do at home?
Hmm. So we were talking about like blue light, and I just mentioned, like that we're perceiving blue with our eyes, but like it is part of our like light spectrum that we play with here. And so, you know, one thing that I do is like if I don't have blue glass, I use my life force to infuse the water with my own with blue light. Like I just use my own intention, but I use in my own energy. And people who do energy healing or have received energy healing or ever have tingling in your palms, then you know what I'm talking about. It's just
Mm.
simply with my intention, just in my imagination, just illuminating the water with blue light. And the intention is to invigorate it with life force, with my life force, to lift it up with your life force. And blue is helpful. It's just a very calming color. I'm like asking Mother Mary, I'm like, what can I say about the color blue? And she's like, there's something that just makes you feel at home about the color blue. And it's because the sky is blue, she says, and the waters are blue. And so it just feels comforting. Also, like deep reds and things like that, too. Um, so I have infused my water with light. I certainly like homeopathy is a well-known practice, and that has used like paper prescriptions or paper remedies forever, which is just essentially writing the name of a plant, writing the name of an animal, writing the name of an angel, or writing just anything that you wish that you are working with or that you're wanting to invoke the wisdom of within yourself. You write it on a piece of paper and you set that water on top of the paper, and then that the wisdom from the plant is then structured restructures into the water, or structures the water into that wisdom, because remember, like, water is holding all of the memory record of life on earth already. So it's just kind of like being like, all right, water, like pull out of your library all of the wisdom about, phosphorus, because I want to work with phosphate or phosphorus, and I want to structure my water to that. Put your water on that word, and then you sip it with intention, and you would be receiving the support from the plant or the mineral or the animal medicine that you're working with. That's another way that I've worked with water. And then I also like to work with water and some minerals or essential oils and things like that. Because water, when you put a dish of water out or a cup of water out into your room, it starts to structure the air too. And when we put essential oils into the air in water, like we can smell the restructuring, right? So that's kind of a fun thing, is to work with prayer water or work with water that I have intention with and fill my atmosphere with it. And you're like, well, I don't have a fancy you know, center, whatever it's even called, because I don't have one myself, right? So I would just take a cup of water that I have with intention and light it up with my intention, and then set it out in the room and just let it sit there, knowing that the water is communicating with the atmosphere. And so you start to
Mm.
structure the prayer that you have for your water to the whole environment. And then you can also, extend, the homeopathy and the words and things really are intended for internal journey, like internal intention, but also like intention for your house, intention for your family, intention for your pets, intention for
Mm.
the atmosphere, intention for your plants. There's so much that you can do with water when you start to know that it's like it's within everything that's alive, and it's also all around us, and it wants to
Mm.
give life, and it creates, it is what brings to life everything in front of us. So it's such a good place to work with. It is so exciting. Like, oh, it's so exciting to work with water and to fall in love with how smart it is and just how it can help you. And so when you structure your environment with water, it's subtle, right? And so it's
Mm.
like over time, as you do it, you start to realize that the water is like magnetizing what you need to fulfill that intention, be it more, your intention is to have more joy or more laughter or, better wholeness or wellness, the water starts to bring to you what you need, like a small child visitor that just makes you belly laugh,
Yeah.
or a dog that meets you outside your front door, like a beautiful golden retriever or something that just like lets you pet it, or something to bring you comfort or whatever you're asking for. The
Mm.
water starts to bring it to you in these subtle ways. Um, and in these like ways that kind of flow and are magical and
Yeah.
unexpected. You can't be like, bring me $1 million, but it might take a while for it to manifest. I like to ask for things that, like, I like to ask or co-create with water things that like surprise me. So I like to work with fields of energy where, like I set the intention for the house for the week, and like, so like my intention is for peace, for all of us to just be in our creative genius and busy in our creativity all week, and not have to feel idle boredom, and subtly through the week things flow that way, if I can like see it
Yeah.
happening, right? Which is part
So
of it. So those are some of the
for
ways.
those, yeah, thank you for sharing that. So for our listeners who are either watching live or listening to the consciousness of the living water, just grab a glass of water or your bottle of water, whatever you're doing, and just infuse it while we're talking, and set your intention to put peace and love and joy and vitality and clarity and self-love, and infuse your water
Mm.
and just hold it with that intention. Uh, and then feel the difference when you drink it. Actually be aware of the taste of the water after, and let us know in the comments if it tastes different, because it it may just have a different taste.
Yes, we really want our water to have particular tastes to tell us about itself. And it's so, I find it funny and cute and sweet to want to have sweet water. But water communicates in such a cute, like it's such a peculiar way and a subtle way. And one thing that it likes to communicate through is like emotions. And it also likes to communicate, like help you with moving emotions and completing patterns and keeping things in flow. And so, you can ask water to hold a field for you, or like to create more joy. And you can also ask the water like a little more specifically, um, you know, what you would like the water to do within you. And like if you can pick, like, what's something that you just are having a hard time emotionally with? Maybe it's not even hard. Maybe there's a place you're exploring emotionally. Ask the water to travel to all of the places within you that you can't see. you know Ask the water to help flow the meaning behind something to you, right? Water is a really interesting guidance system as well, because it is our emotion. It moves our emotions. It moves energy through our body. You can ask water to help illuminate or bring to you the answers that you're looking for. And that's not that water's bringing it outside of you. It's actually generating from inside of you because you're already full of water, right? So the answers are like bubbling up from inside of you, you know? And I mean, it might come in the 3D, like it might come from outside of you, but I want you to know that you are generating the resonance that magnetizes that to you. So it really is all coming from you. And even though I'm saying like ask water to help, the water helps to like surface it from your own self and to communicate this wisdom that's already within the waters within yourself. So it's not like I'm putting wisdom in. I'm just asking this water to like wake up all the other water in my body with that information, because the same water that's inside of my body is the same water outside of my body, in the clouds, in your body. It's all the same. We're breathing water, you know? Yeah.
So for a very busy mum at home who is just come
That's me.
home, she's now preparing dinner for her children. She's got all the to-do list still going. I've got to do this, and she could be stressed, overwhelmed, anxious, whatever, all those emotions, but she's preparing the food, she's got the water running, washing her vegetables or whatever. What would you suggest? Because our emotions also go into the food. So when it comes to the water that we're even washing the vegetables with, what suggestion, because it really
So,
comes down to
yes.
being present in the
Uh-huh.
moment, isn't it?
Well, it's interesting because water can work quickly. Like water can communicate across itself really quickly because it's a great conduit, right, of energy. And so the first thing I would do, because I'm a busy mom with two kids and single, and here I go, So sometimes I get home and I just need patience. Like I want presence and patience so that I can handle the hum of stress, right? That's running through the mind. And so the first thing I would do is I would pour a glass of water from something that I have prepared, but if not, from the tap. Okay? And I would just take like a moment to just thank it for helping me, thank it for being here, whatever I can thank it for. And then I would write on a piece of paper patience and presence. And then I would set that glass of water on that piece of paper. And then I would cook the supper and I would tend the emotions and I would fix the boo-boos and I would chop the vegetables and I'd prepare dessert or whatever was happening,
Mm.
and be sipping on that water the whole time. And it would be supporting me because I would be recognizing my intention every time that I go back to the water. Very simple, takes no time at all. One moment just to like be thanks, thank you so much for helping me, and putting it down on a piece of paper, easy. And then lo and behold, something goes a little bit better than it usually does,
Yeah.
or at the end of the night you just kind of notice like, oh, or the next day you notice, oh, yesterday I was actually quite grounded, through that. Or, I didn't have such a hard time when the kids were arguing because I can't never tell you that siblings won't argue, but it can help you to handle the high vibration of responsibility, in times of chaos. And so that's what I would do right away. Hmm.
Beautiful, beautiful. Um, so when it comes to, because water has memory,
Hmm.
and so people may hear the phrase, water has memory, may or may not. But what does that mean from your perspective? Because you did talk about earlier, it's
Hmm.
before it comes out of the tap, um, it's gone through maybe a lot of abuse
Hmm.
before. So the memory of the water, um, how does that affect us if we're unconscious and we're just pouring? We are, before people listen to this conversation, they're not aware of, well, I just turn on the tap and I get a glass of water, but they don't maybe comprehend that water has memory. So from your perspective, what would you like to say about the memory?
Yes, it's like it's a record holder, like it holds the record of the wisdom of life. And, um, people, we consume a lot unconsciously,
Yeah.
because we've been taught that. Like it's a very ingrained program here to just kind of like, we're told that we're told we're thirsty all the time. We're told we're hungry all the time. And so there's when you come into conscious relationship with water, your body starts to realize like, wait, like I actually don't need a bunch of stuff. I actually don't need a bunch of food that is not good for me, right? The water starts
Mm.
to change the way that you have a relationship with the world around you, not only just your body. Um, and those people who have gone through journeys with food would understand because there's when you're unconscious about something, there's patterns playing out um, that are probably keeping you small or keeping you small in your courage or in your heart kind of thing. So memory and water. So we have this like innate relationship with water anyway. It was there in our womb, like it was there when we were formed. Um,
Mm.
yeah. So what else can I say about memory and water? If you look up Veda Austin's work, she shows some really interesting patterns and images coming from water that's been spoken upon, and
Mm.
that's really persuasive for our eyes and our minds to kind of wrap around how water has memory. You know, the way I could put it is like, how does the seed get the right nutrients from the water, right? you know there's a the water is a delivery system, and so it's like water has memory. Another way of thinking is like water is a record keeper of all life. So water knows how to interact with your body to help it function according to nature, and according to nature, which is regenerative, like how to be best at regenerating itself.
Yes. So it's
Yeah.
like an energetic imprint of its environment. It's just innate.
Yes.
It's already instilled.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so like it's not like that tap water is not intelligent. It's just resonating an intelligence of confusion, right? It's
Mm.
just and of being toxic, like having toxins in its body, just the same as like our body reacts when we have toxins in it, or we get shaken about a whole bunch, right? Or our our minds have been manipulated by media or something, very, very similar. So you can personify the water in that way and speak to it as if it's like a very wise friend that just has been here since the beginning of time, right? Knowing that it knows how to bring the body back to its natural flow, which is to be regenerative. And one thing is like water is life-giving. Water is always life-giving. It's just what part of the life cycle is it giving to? What part of the cycle, right? Is it in? And what part of the life cycle is it in? But it's always giving back to life because the life will be recycled, right? With water. And so when you come into conscious, you have access to all of that. And people could call that and might be curious about like hearing the word the Akashic record, that kinds of thing.
Mm.
The Akashic record of Earth is contained in water. That's where the wisdom is. It's carried, that's what forms our bodies, and the soil, the minerals, and the water is the Akashic record of our physical existence. And so when you start to listen to water, you can explore all sorts of things. And like I said, it works subtly. So you'll ask the water, like, help me to understand why I'm in this pattern of depression. Why do I get sad after these events or something, and ask it, and it will start to reveal through the movement of energy in your body, which will create memories to come and synchronicities to form around you to illuminate the truth that you're seeking inside of yourself, just because it knows how. It knows the answer already. So it just helps to
Mm.
illuminate it for you. It's really, really, really powerful. Um, and the what makes it so powerful is when you believe it. Like when you believe in yourself, it makes it more powerful. So not being afraid to not tell anybody you're doing it. Like, don't be afraid to keep it to yourself if that's going to make you feel more confident about it, right? So, like, if you're around people that might like poo poo on speaking to your water, keep it to yourself so that you can be more sure in what you're doing, because the more sure you are of it, the more convinced you are of the love that you have for water and the relationship you're building, the more impactful it will be. Because you are creating a relationship with it, right? It's kind of the same as like if I was like falling in love with someone and I was unsure if people would be in full support, but my heart said yes, I would probably keep it a little bit quiet to myself for a little bit. This is just me personally. Keep it quiet to myself for a little bit until I felt more confident about my sureness in it. And then I would start to tell people. So when they're like, oh, you're talking to your water, you're like, yeah, and it's amazing, you know? So confidence plays an important part on setting intention and making the magic really potent so that like happens, you know? Mm-hmm.
Well, I just realized the time, and
Mm-hmm.
though one last, as we wrap up this conversation, if the consciousness of the water could deliver just one message to humanity today, what would it say?
Mm. Well, it just wants to say that it loves you. It's basically just saying I love you to me. It's just saying I
Mm,
love you. And you know that we are its children, you know, in many ways because water grows us, you know, and um water saying like that we are all such beautiful unique expressions, and to think that there's one that water could be one way, or that is like thinking that humans could be one way, you know, so rich with wisdom. The water saying like we're just so rich with wisdom in like the great expression of the minerals in our body, and all of us have different mineral makeups, and that means that we all need different things. And so to not whitewash yourself thinking that there's one solution for every human. There isn't. The intelligence is already within you. And to access that wisdom is to listen to your emotions and to the waters that are moving in you. And the water wants you to know that, you know, that your spontaneous imaginative thoughts about it are probably true. So, like, whatever magical, imaginative things that come to mind when you're working with water or around it, like, it's probably true. It's probably something good to do. If it brings you joy, water wants to do it with you. And so, I'm getting visions of, like, you know, it being fun and not a serious business. You know, like, water doesn't want to be serious business. Water wants to be a fun friend. You know, water wants to be something that's joyful and life-giving and happy. And so they're just saying like don't take it too seriously. Love flows most beautifully through our smiles, it's saying. That was lovely. Very full, like almost like too many words coming through my mouth at once to hold it. Thank you for asking that.
thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah. Now, maybe this is an energetic sign, but my internet is unstable. So maybe that's a sign to wrap up now. And thank you so much for sharing, Sar. It's been so wonderful to get together again. And for those listening, just, yeah, try these simple practices at home, and it will help you on so many layers, energetically, physically, emotionally, spiritually, in your everyday life, by just being aware of the water that you are drinking, by coming into the present moment and being conscious of that water is living, and energy in it. So fill up your cells in your body, and that will just help with your energy in your body and your vitality, as well as your health and any healing that you're actually going through. So let's wrap up for today. And if this has paused at any time throughout the recording, my apologies. We'll put the links down below on how to contact Sar, as well as Beta Austin and Dr. Emoto's links. I'll put those in the show notes. And Sar, thank you so much once again. So wonderful to be with you today, and we'll see you again very soon. And much
Thank
love
you.
to everyone out there listening. Bye for now. Bye-bye. And I will